And welcome to Hannity. And tonight we're going to take you inside one of the most liberal executive mansions in America for an exclusive interview with California Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, no topic was off the table, no restrictions at all whatsoever. I did promise the governor that I would give him a chance to respond to each question without interruption. So, especially in the beginning of the interview, it is less debate-oriented. It's a little more debate-oriented as the interview goes on. And as you might imagine, well, Governor Newsom and I strongly disagree on pretty much everything. But to the governor's credit, he did sit down for an entire hour. He answered most of our questions. And by the way, that was something that the president of the United States, Joe Biden, is not even remotely capable of doing. So without further ado, here is part one of my interview with California's Democratic Governor, Gavin Newsom. All right, so I write you. This got a lot of pickup, I'm sure you saw as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I want to do an interview.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do an interview. I want to make sure the audience understands up front. This is not going to be me. I want you to answer and give your views. I would say you represent probably about half the country, your views, and the other half represents mine. You agree? We're kind of divided.
Plus or minus, certainly divided. Yeah. No question. I mean, we're polarized, we're traumatized. We clearly are in these, and we're in these echo chambers. I mean, let's be candid, Sean. I mean, your folks are watching you and getting a certain perspective, and my folks are watching other networks getting a certain perspective as well.
We have studies that show a lot of Democrats watch me.
Well, including me. So I'm here for a reason. Yeah. To wit the point, though, I think we need more of that cross-pollination. We need more of these kind of conversations, and we need to not just, accuse each other of misleading the American people, but I think confront each other in the context of providing opportunities to address some of the facts that are often omitted in terms of the conversations and topics we choose to pick up.
So what I see is, I don't know how you reconcile some of these differences. Now, you either believe in secure borders and law and order, and people that want to come into our country have to do it legally. I'm the product of that.
Right.
Or there are people that want open borders. You believe in defund, dismantle, no bail laws like cities like in New York, where the show originates from, or you believe law and order, safety, security is a prerequisite for the pursuit of happiness. You want energy independence, or you don't want any domestic energy production. I mean, how do you reconcile?
Well, I don't see those binaries at all. Quite the contrary.
You don't see it at all?
No, I don't. I mean, I want border security. Democrats want border security. We also want comprehensive.
But you don't want any walls.
I want comprehensive immigration reform. I want to actually address the issue more comprehensively, just like Ronald Reagan did in 1989. Just like, and with respect, Sean, you promoted yourself with the Gang of Eight and bipartisan legislation that got 68 votes in the Senate, only to die in the House, that could fundamentally address this issue, which is the issue. So I don't see those. But I always had
as my position, build the wall first. You're against building any wall.
I know. I have no problem with the 650-plus miles we have on border walls. I come from a state with the largest, San Ysidro is the largest land port in the Western Hemisphere. I don't need to be educated on the issue of the border or issues of immigration policy.
One thing, Medi-Cal for illegals is $2.7 billion to the state.
And how many billions are we spending for uncompensated care? People end up in the emergency.
Can I ask you?
On the back end, wasting taxpayer money.
Why is it wrong to just demand, if you want to come to this country, obey our laws, respect our borders, respect our sovereignty, apply, come in, and we can expedite the application process.
It's the latter part. Now you're having a conversation. This is where I think the vast majority of America is.
That's why I'm here.
Well, that's the point.
I'm here to bring us together.
And that was the point of the comprehensive reform. Where's Congress? I mean, look, you can criticize Biden all the time. Biden's border crisis, I watch 24/7, surround sound, anger machine around that. I get it.
Wait a minute. In 3 years,
I get it.
He will allow over 7.5 million people illegally into this country. Right. You have to see there's something wrong with that.
No, I do, and I see there's something right with what he's done post Title 42, a 70% reduction, taking a lot of the core tenets that the previous administration used. He's now being sued by the left, not just being applauded, certainly by the right. That said, here's what's missing. the conversation you just suggested we should be having around dealing with asylum seekers and backlogs and updating and modernizing our visas and addressing a pathway that Ronald Reagan himself acknowledged.
Let me ask you if
and
you
I
support
think those
this.
things are missing.
Should we have background checks?
Yes.
Should, in the middle of a pandemic, health checks?
We did.
Should we have means testing so the people that enter this country are not going to be a financial burden on the American people?
We prioritize already with certain. We prioritize with STEM. We prioritize with visas already. We prioritize.
You're going to give
as well
a
as
free
essential
college
workforce.
education and $2.7 billion of taxpayer dollars in California to Medi-Cal.
And
that's for illegal immigrants only.
And we're spending the money already. I know everybody on the right can't stand sanctuary policy. I understand that. Rudy Giuliani, by the way, Trump's old attorney, was a huge proponent of sanctuary policy.
I didn't know that.
Actually said it keeps you healthier, safer, and more educated. Actually made those arguments when he was governor, or rather mayor of New York. It's the cards that are dealt in the absence of comprehensive reform. I'm all for comprehensive reform. I'm for background checks. I'm for addressing border security in all its forms and manifestations, not just walls. I'm addressing a legal pathway. I'm actually wanting to address all these issues, but I want to do it in a rational way and not just bastardize the conversation as exclusively about the border.
Okay, I have here in my pile of stuff the exact federal law that prohibits. Now, there are two court decisions that you might be able to cite. One is the Trump lawsuit. That was in the Ninth Circuit. The other is some wording and one opinion that Justice Scalia gave some years back. But it is unambiguous when you read the 18 U.S. Code as it relates to entering the country that you've got to do so legally. By characterizing the state as sanctuary, aren't you thereby violating federal law, the laws that are on the books, and that our own Constitution states very unequivocally that, in fact, you should be following?
These sanctuary policies have been on the books for decades. Cities, Democratic cities, Republican-led cities in the past, Democratic states, clearly, more modern conception around dealing with reality, the cards that are dealt. Right. You want people that are victims of crime to come forward and report those crimes. That's the purpose of sanctuary. You want a kid be educated that's here regardless of how they got here. You want that kid educated. You want to take care of someone that's in an emergency and not have them concerned that they're going to be deported by a nurse. The point is you deal with reality. But look, I stipulate I'm happy to get rid of those protections by doing the hard work of actually coming together as a nation across our differences and support comprehensive reform and modernize our asylum system and modernize our immigration system. This issue will only get worse. It's not just a border issue, is the point.
7.5 million people under Joe Biden will illegally enter this country in 3 years of his presidency. Yep. To me, that's unconscionable. That's unfair to the American people. That's unfair to the states, including your state. That's unfair to border states like Texas. But here's where I want to just pause a second and ask you a really serious question. I don't think Joe Biden is mentally, physically capable of being the president of the United States. Hang on. I suspect if I took your phone and I took a look at it, not that I believe in privacy, I would never do that. I would bet on a daily basis that there are people urging you to run for president and primary him. Am I wrong in my assumption?
Well, my phone's been lighting up how well he did with the UK Prime Minister. My phone lit up and how he
That's a nice duck.
McCarthy on the debt ceiling.
Does your phone light up?
My phone lights up with Republican friends saying, you know what? Despite all of the rhetoric, these bipartisan bills he keeps passing on infrastructure and the CHIPS and Science Act, the bipartisan work he did on gun legislation reform and around the debt ceiling, make me feel maybe he's done a little bit better job than some are
suggesting. But that wasn't my question. Does your phone light up with, Gavin, you need to get in this primary? He's not able to run. He's not up to the job.
Look, everybody has their quiet chatter, and everybody's out there rooting for America. I'm rooting for our president. I have great confidence in his leadership.
I don't want him to fail.
He's been able to accomplish.
I think his policies are failing.
CHIPS Act, Science Act, do you oppose that?
I will tell you, on every measure, from the economy, inflation, borders, energy, national security, he's missing in action.
Let's talk about them in order. Let's
well,
talk
hang
about,
on.
Wait, but I want to challenge the premise. You said the economy, 13.1 million jobs he's created. More.
These are post-COVID jobs. Okay. You know that.
Well,
I mean, that's an artificial number.
But no. Then let me stipulate this as an opportunity to engage civilly on this.
Okay.
Fair point. Your president, Donald Trump, lost 2.6 million jobs during his 4 years. We've created 13.1 million. Fine, you can maintain a COVID frame. How about the fact that Joe Biden's created more jobs, 6 times more jobs, than the previous 3 Republican presidents combined?
Are you going to tell me
Sean,
that the average family, where we have 2/3 of Americans now living paycheck to paycheck,
it was 70% under Trump? That was 70%. It was 70% under Donald Trump.
Pre-COVID, we had the lowest unemployment rate for every demographic.
We have the lowest black unemployment in history, and you and I are living with the lowest unemployment in our lifetime, Sean.
You can't make that up. We had it for every demographic, and the economy was
black unemployment's record low under Joe Biden.
Okay. We had historic low after historic low under Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. I mean, but he's cleaned Trump's clock, Biden, in terms of the progress in job creation. Look at what he's done on jobs.
What would you grade Joe Biden's presidency? Because you're at odds with the American people and the Democratic Party.
I'm just dealing with the facts. I'm dealing with the facts.
What is your grade for
I'm
him?
going to go back. Let's talk. You brought up 6 topics.
You got to answer some questions.
I'm answering the ones in order. You brought up the economy. On the economy, let's talk about the economy.
You want to give him an A?
Inflation, stubborn around the globe. Let's talk about inflation. It's down 40% since last summer, 10 months in a row, 4.9%. He was just with the UK Prime Minister at 6.9%. Is that because of Biden's Fed policy?
Economic and energy policies
directly impacted the UK's inflation?
No, I am.
Or the fact that France is 5.5% or Germany's at 6.1%? On inflation, we're moving in the right direction. On the issue of the border security,
he inherited 1.4% inflation. It went up to 40-year high after 40-year high.
Globally, because you just brought up, you were making an excuse for Trump's dismal jobs record related to COVID.
It wasn't a dismal
you won't acknowledge
jobs record.
COVID's relationship to inflation globally. And by the way, COVID and immigration impacting our inflation.
Let me stop you. All right, so I would assume you're going to give Biden an A. Here's the problem that Joe Biden has. You're arguing, you're fighting, you're battling, you're articulate. We could sit here for 3 hours, probably have a beer or 2 in the middle of this, and you can keep going. Here's the problem. Your president can't have this conversation. He's not capable of it. Now my question is a serious one.
All right.
Okay, is Joe Biden up to the job of being president? And as a little reminder, take a look at your president in the monitor.
And there's an awful lot of stories that are told, but probably a bunch apocryphal about the former prime minister. Like you take baths up that, anyway.
Wandering around at 3 in the morning. Yeah, Winston Churchill.
By the way, I met with, who are those guys that fly over shortly? You heard of them, haven't you? And the cheer for we cheer for Muslim athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I know him, and I did mispronounce his name. So I'm trying to think, where was the last place I was? It's hard to keep track. I mean, yeah, you're right, Ireland. That's where it was. EIGH%. He said, you're too much like that guy who led the revolution, instead of the guy who was the prime minister. He said, you got to be less like the military guy. They shot him. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done.
And then you got Joe Biden who's having a hard time standing up. Take a look at that one. I want you to tell me that you think he is cognitively strong enough to lead this country against China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and a new axis of evil, and that he's the guy. He cannot articulate the economy the way you just did.
Yeah, but I don't think he's capable. I know he's capable. I see results. I've seen a masterclass in results the last few years. You don't see the results on the CHIPS Act. You don't see the results on the infrastructure. You had Infrastructure Week every week for 4
CHIPS Act,
years.
we're still importing them all from Taiwan, which is about to be taken over by China.
We had $4 billion proof point just here in California with Applied Materials, bringing semiconductor investment back here in the state of California. My point being,
we're going to talk about
real results, but bipartisan results, real results. Jobs programs. The IRA, I know you don't like it. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars in green energy investment, mostly in red states. You're the biggest beneficiary of the IRA.
He raised taxes on oil, gas, coal, pensions, and, quote, taxes corporations. Corporations don't pay taxes. They pass the cost on to consumers. That's all they do. You know that.
On the issue of energy independence, I think it was your second of the list of items.
Do you think he's cognitively strong enough to be president?
I have conversations with him all the time, yes. And I'll tell you what.
You do?
I'm dead serious about that. I've talked to him when he's been overseas. I've been in Air Force One, Marine One. I've been in the limo with him. I've spent time with him privately.
Okay, but you never answered
publicly.
my question directly. How many times does your phone ping a day people saying you need to get in this race because they agree with me that he's not up to the job?
I see where you're
question.
I see where you're going with that.
I'm
John.
asking.
No, and I'm not answering.
Under any circumstances would you get in this primary?
No.
None.
I really am proud. I think he's a man of decency and character. I'm really proud of the president. I'm proud of what he's accomplished.
Is he strong enough to be president? That's I'm
strong enough.
talking
Look
about
what he just did to McCarthy. He ran circles. Look at the vote card.
I didn't like the vote. I wouldn't have voted for it.
Exactly. Kevin got played by the President of the United States. I'm for results. I'm for results.
I don't think the American people benefit. I like the plan that would have saved $4.8 trillion. All right. Now, so we're at a point, I think you are far more articulate, far more versed, far more energetic. I have this theory that people are going to come calling because I don't think in your party they think he's the guy. No. Just my thought. Now I've got a bunch of... Well, look, I don't want to make this an argument. I want you to explain. Because my argument to you is conservative policies work. Okay. You know, I don't care if it's Ronald Reagan. I don't care if it's Newt Gingrich's contract. I don't care if it's Donald Trump's 4 years as president.
Got it.
I believe his policies work. Peace through strength work, building up our military, building a wall, enforcing law and order, energy independence, which Biden gave up, which he didn't bring up.
Which I'm happy to directly.
Let me show you a list of corporate headquarters that are leaving your state in well,
no, let's bring it on. I look forward to having this conversation.
There you go.
I'm well aware.
Corporate headquarters, they're leaving. Look at San Francisco in particular. They're closing down because they can't keep their product in the store because they're getting robbed. I got another one for you. Okay. Seasonally adjusted business applications. You always bring up Florida. Yeah. I compared you to Florida. I think you have a higher population, if I'm not mistaken.
A significantly higher population.
Why are they doing better in business formulation?
Well, we'll have to take a look at that in more detail.
Take a look.
I'm happy that we're looking forward. How many more of these you have? Let's go.
About 8.
Bring them on.
Bring them all on?
Bring them all on. Let's have this conversation.
Okay. Let me ask you. This is a tough question for you.
I don't think it will be. Well, let's find out.
All right. So you're the first governor in history that has had a net migration out of the Golden State. Go west, young man.
Yep.
I lived here by the way, I lived here 5 years.
Horace Greeley.
I was the poorest guy in Santa Barbara at the time in the early 80s. If you look at, I want you to really look at this and explain for the years 2021 and 2022 why Florida is taking in nearly 1,000 people a day, and you're losing 800 people a day. Right. They're leaving. Tell me why they're leaving your state.
So we'll stop at 3, or you want to do the whole?
No. We'll just answer one at a time.
18 states had declines in population. California's was 0.3%. You didn't bring up any of the red states that had decline in populations. It's an interesting fact, and I don't see it on here. An interesting omitted fact.
What's that?
Per capita, more Floridians moved to California than Californians moving to Florida. That, I don't imagine, is in one of your 8 slides. Let me take another stab at this. In 2021, California had 7.8% of GDP growth in this country, one of the fastest growing economies anywhere on planet Earth. This state continues to be the tentpole of the American economy. 25.6% of all American jobs came from this state in April. In the last 2 fiscal years, we enjoyed $177.7 billion in operating surpluses. We're on our way to be the 4th largest economy, eat your heart out, Germany, in the world. Number 1 in R&D, venture capital, more scientists, researchers, more Nobel laureates, more patents emanating out of this state than any other state in America. With all due respect, Florida doesn't even come close. Eat your heart out, Texas. California continues to be the dominant economic engine for the American public.
I promised you before this interview I would let you give full answers. That's a full answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm going to challenge it.
Good.
And the challenge is this is the first time in the history of the state that you've lost population.
Yes.
The first time.
Correct.
Now, I'm going to give you another sheet here. And this is about income tax.
Right.
Your state income tax is 13.3% at the highest number. I also did more digging. The top 1% of Californians pay 50% of that total income tax bill.
Yeah.
Fully half.
Roughly. Yeah.
That's redistribution of wealth, isn't it?
Well, it's progressive tax
All right.
policy.
Now, look at yours, 13.3. What is Florida? What does that say? It says 0.
Well, it's factually untrue. It's not 0. They
have 0 state income
top
tax.
the top 1% pay. Look, here you're promoting. Sean,
is that a lie?
No. Here's what you're promoting. You're promoting regressive tax policy. We don't believe in regressive tax policy. You're promoting one component of entire tax system, the 1%. With all due respect, you and I may pay the 1%. The vast majority of people watching don't. You pay more taxes in states like Texas for the middle class than you do in states like California.
Right now,
hold on, no, this is important.
We have too many
comparisons. The American people don't know this. We have the highest tax rate for the 1%, but middle class families actually pay less than the majority of states in America, in California. The question is, who are you for? So who are you fighting for?
I am for. I'm just wondering, because I have homes in Florida.
Yeah.
And
you pay a lot of property tax there. Double what you pay in California. I would think twice about that.
Except if you add the millionaire property tax that you've just put in L.A. County.
Well, that's a transfer tax, and we didn't do that. That was done locally.
Transfer tax is like $500,000.
I don't know if you can even get health insurance down in Florida.
So you're telling me the loss of net population.
18 states, we were number 10.3%.
And this number here, 13.3%. Now, every Californian
Which we've had for a decade.
Okay.
For a decade.
But right, and you supported it for a decade.
The public actually initiated it. It was supported by the public.
But the point is, Florida has 0. The net population growth, for Florida is almost
1%.
Is almost 1,000 new people a day, and you're losing 800 people a day. Wait, here's my question: is this connected to that?
No, I respect your audience too much to let them be misled on this. Your audience doesn't live in that rarefied. No,
this is a lie.
You're manipulating some fundamental facts. You're omitting the fact that the vast majority of people do not live in the 1%. You're talking about the 1% tax.
1% pays half of it.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking about the American people don't live there. And the reality is when they live in Texas versus California, middle class pay more than they do in the state of California.
Texas is higher tax than Florida, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but your beef seems to be with Ron DeSantis.
No, well, man, we could talk about Abbott for
the kidnapper. We'll get into that in a little bit.
But, here's my point. Yeah. We've had a progressive tax, but I didn't establish the 13.3%. That was done before I even got here. I've opposed new increases in the top 1% tax. I opposed a statewide wealth tax. I've never been a profligate Democrat. I balance budgets. We make the hard choices. I'm a business guy. Started
you have a deficit of $32 billion this year.
This state, we dominate in venture capital, innovation. We have the finest system of public higher education anywhere on planet Earth. We convey more talent than any place on the planet. This state, R&D, what did Tesla just do? They moved back into the state of California. Disney's moving their jobs back from Florida in the state of California. You didn't acknowledge per capita more Floridians coming back to California than Californians going to Florida. This was anomalous. 18 states saw a decline. I love this state. Don't count us out. I've been hearing this bashing all my life.
I am not, but I have a list of all the state headquarters, and I'll scroll them on our screen. Good. And you could take a look at them. These are all the corporations that have left your state.
And we're creating
their corporate headquarters, one after another after another. There's a lot. So what I'm pointing out is...
How many jobs are we creating? How many unicorn companies? How many IPOs? 3 times Florida, twice the number of Texas. Don't omit all of the facts.
Okay,
That's all I'm asking.
I'm asking you not to admit all the facts. So we have all these corporations. Let me give you a list here. Here's the whole list. Tesla, Apple, Nestle,
Tesla
Oracle.
just moved their world headquarters
They have
for R&D
moved
back
their
here.
business headquarters out of your state.
Yeah, and how many jobs they
Here's
created
the
in
whole
the state.
list. I gave you.
And how many
here's a
jobs
copy.
left with them? How many
Would you
jobs?
like to keep it?
No, but you need to know. None. It was insignificant, inconsequential. We create more companies every single day, more billionaires.
I'm scrolling these
No
companies.
state, no, one half of America's $1 billion valued companies are in the state of California. This state economy has outperformed the nation, 3.1% in the last decade, 2.1% nationwide. I've been hearing this nonsense for half a century, literally half a century.
But they've
People
only
counting
left
us
in
out.
recent years.
How many have we created? How many new IPOs? How many new opportunities? How many jobs were taken out of the state of California when Tesla moved its headquarters? You don't know that because it was insignificant.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.